Hello, Keith Rucker here at VintageMachinery.org. Guys, today we are back to work over here on the steam Stoker engine and kind of continuing on with these crossheads and getting things just kind of slowly put back together over here on this engine. Now, just recently we had the wrist pins. First off, I had some made by a viewer with a CNC machine. He sent them down to me. They were then heat treated, and then we just got these ground where we have the taper as well as the bearing surface all having been ground to fit into the crossheads. That's all pretty much done as far as the grinding is concerned. I got just a little bit of touch-up work I need to do on the actual wrist pins. We had left a little stem out here on the end for work holding. It's time for that to disappear. We're done with those. And then from there, we need to change gears and go over to the actual piston rods, or connecting rods rather, that go in here that connect. And these have a bronze bushing in them right here. These bushings need to be bored out to the proper size. When this machine or this engine was used in the past, the original wrist pins had worn down about 25 thousandths undersized, and the bearings had been replaced where they basically matched the old existing wrist pins. So these are a good bit undersized. We need to basically enlarge those out so that they fit the new pins, which were made back to spec, which is roughly a 2-inch diameter. We actually made them just a little bit undersized so that we could do our bore at 2 inches here and have a little bit of oil clearance. So anyway, that's kind of what's on tap today. Hopefully get where we can get these piston or connecting rods rather mounted up onto the wrist pins and be a step closer to getting these things into the engine. I still got the bearings to work on the other end of the connecting rod that actually goes to the crankshaft. That'll probably be done later on just because we're not going to have enough time to get all that in one video. So let's get started on this. These are the crossheads, and I've already got the Babbitt port on this one. We're going to make sure everything's good on it before we really go on. Basically, again, if you're not familiar, the connecting rod goes from the wrist pin here up to the crankshaft in the engine, and then coming out of the front of this will be the actual piston rod, which will fit up in like such. This has to remain running parallel to everything. It can't have that rocking action that you'll have in the connecting rod. Basically, the whole crosshead just transitions between that rocking action to a linear action here for that piston in the steam engine. Like I said, the piston rod can't be moving up and down. So we've got the wrist pins ready to go here. They've been ground to size, they fit. Like I said, we've got this little stem sticking out the ends. This was left on here for work holding. That needs to be cut off. We're going to go over to the lathe right now and see about getting those cut off of there, and then we'll start working on our boring. And we're going to start by just cutting this off with the bandsaw, and we'll take it to the lathe and just trim it up. So let me see if we can get it cut off here. One. There's number 2. I've got this over here in the lathe now. I did put some little copper pieces in here to keep from marring up that ground surface in the chuck, and I just want to clean that up on the end. I'll just come in here and turn it right down, kind of face across it. And I'm just going to take a little bit of emery cloth here and kind of polish that end up a little bit. It needs to go in a little bit more. I think that'll blend in a little bit better. We'll do the same thing to the other one, and this end's really not critical, it's just there, but try to get it look as nice as we can. I'm over at the arbor press, and we had drilled these holes previously for a dowel pin. I did go back, and I actually did this before we ground them. I didn't show it on camera, but I reamed this out with a reamer that was a half a thousandth undersized for 1/4 of an inch, and we got a 1/4 inch dowel pin that I want to put in there and just press it in place. It should be a press fit. However, just to be on the safe side, I've got some Loctite 603. This is high strength, oil tolerant press fit. So that's basically exactly what we want. It's just a press fit. It needs to be an oil tolerant situation. So I'm just going to put a little dab of this on my dowel pin just for good measure, and we will press that in place. All right, and that is sticking up. Let me wipe that up and we'll do the other one. You can see on this one here, that little pin that we put in there is a slot, and when you put this together, that pin goes up in that slot, and that will just prevent this wrist pin from rotating on the shaft. When you tighten all that up, it'll tighten up on the tapers and again prevent it from spinning around. So I think we have the wrist pins 100% finished up now, and we can move on toward the bushings and getting those ready. I will note that there's a big washer that fits up on this side. When you tighten that up, I need to buy something, a couple of these. I've only got one, and this in pretty ratty condition. I could probably reuse it, but I do need another one. There was only one of the wrist pins was missing when I got this. So I do need another one of these, and we'll probably just make one. But that will help in the assembly of these when we get ready to do that after a while. This is the only existing original wrist pin that I have, and it was broken. The end was broken off. It looks like where they tried to take it apart, and it snapped the threads off the end. The other wrist pin was missing when I got it. I will note that these are measuring a good bit undersized. According to the blueprints, this should be 2 inches, and we are right on that number. I was just going to check here. That's basically 1 inch 975 thousandths. So we're about 25 thousandths undersized on these pins, and this one fits this connecting rod pretty well. This one is a little bit tight on this one, doesn't quite go in, so I suspect that this is the side that this one was on. And guys, what happened here, we talked about before, this machine, as it was used originally in service, it had wear in it. And according to the specs in the book, they have plans that as these wear out, you replace this bushing with a smaller bushing. Keep the wrist pin, replace the bushing. So obviously these have been replaced at some point in time. Let me just see what this is measuring here. All right, that one's measuring about 985 thousandths, so it's about 15 thousandths undersized. So it does need to be bored out a little bit larger because this one won't quite fit it. So, you know, how do I go about doing this? So as to boring these out, the way I'm looking at it, I've probably got two options. Number one, I can take this over to the mill machine, set it up, and just use a boring head and bore it out in place. The other option is to press that bushing out and then take it over to the lathe and board out on the lathe and then press the bushing back in. I've been sitting here kind of debating on which route I want to go. It's going to probably be about the same amount of work either way, but I'm leaning towards pressing these out and doing it on the lathe, mainly because the way this is pretty much a rough casting down here. Well, that may have been machined at some point, but that's kind of a rough surface in there. That's what I would have to set up on the bottom, and this thing, even though the thickness over here is different than down here, so this is sitting at an angle. I'd have to shim that up and clamp it all down, and I'm worried that my alignment might be off a little bit on my bore just because of setting this thing up in the piston, whereas if I take it out and put it in the lathe, I would be concentric to the bore that's already in there. And I feel a little bit better about that. So yeah, let's see if we can get these pressed out. Like I said, we can just take it over to the lathe and then we can press them back in once we get that inside bored out to the diameter we need be. And you know, worst case, once I get it pressed out, I can just make a whole new bushing if necessary and press in there. But hopefully we can use the ones we got. All right, let's see about getting that pressed out. I'm over here at the arbor press, and I've just made a little adapter here. This was literally a piece of scrap metal I had laying around that was bored out on the inside, piece of tubing. That's not necessary. It could have been solid. That's just what I had. That was the right OD. I turned the shoulder on it that fits down inside there, and we should be able to hopefully press this out over here on the arbor press. If not, we may have to go to the hydraulic press. But yeah, it's going to come out. No problem at all. There we go. So there's our bushing. Let's take that over to the lathe and we'll bore it out. Got the bushing set up over here in the lathe, and I like to use the biggest boring bar that I can for anything. It's just more rigid and just gives you a better finish usually. I need to take about 20 thousandths out of this, not much, so I'm just coming there and just basically just clean it up, get a good measurement, and then we'll go from there. So let's fire up the lathe and see if we can knock this out. I'll come in here and just touch off. I'm just barely touching right there. More of a cut. Still not getting quite cleaned up. This first pass I don't want to take any more than I have to. Alright. We'll get my bore micrometer and we'll check that out. 80, 85, so we're about 87. 1 inch, 987. All right, I'm gonna take out a little bit more. I'm trying to get to about 190, 197, 198, somewhere along in there. So we got about 10 thousandths come out of there. I'm just going to take another light pass. I think we still had a little area we weren't touched in there, so I'm going to get another measurement here. All right, that is cleaned up all the way around now. I feel better about this measurement. 80, 85. Yeah, we're right at 90, so. All right, so we're about 998, almost 999. I'm going to test it real quick. Let me get that pin and just see how it feels. I'm gonna go with that. That feels really good. So that's given about 1.5 thou for clearance, but I like it. Back over here at the arbor press, this bushing has got 2 holes in it for oil holes that go through this. I'm going to get those lined back up where they need to be. I did mark this side. This is the same, going basically in the same way it came out. I think I will put a little bit of this Loctite on here. Same Loctite we used a while ago. This is for press fits and tight fits with oil. So what I'm going to do is just kind of take my rag here and just kind of put a little light coat of that on there. Don't take much. Get that lined back up with my oil holes. I'm going to put a little plate on top of this. And that should press right back in place. All right. All right, so just for fun, I'm going to check my fit again. Sometimes when you press one of these bearings in, it'll actually make it a little bit smaller because it's just shrunk in there. Yeah, and that's fine. I was having a little bit of trouble getting it lined up to go in there, but that turns great. And I'm going to go ahead. These rods were matched to the ones when they came out. I marked them. This one's got a 1 punch mark. This one has a 1 punch mark. I'm going to go ahead and just put a 1 punch mark on the end of this one so I know that this is the wrist pin that I have test fit with this with. So I'm just going to put a single punch mark on the end of this, and the other one will have 2 punch marks on it, and that way I can keep these straight. I'm just going to leave that in there for right this moment, and we will get the second connecting rod here, and I'm going to do the exact same thing to this, guys. We're going to press that out, we'll bore it out, check the fit, press it back in, and once that's done, I think we will be ready to actually put them into the crossheads and make sure everything lines up there like it should. Here's our number 2. Very nice. All right, let's see if we can put these together. So this is crosshead number 2. This is connecting rod number 2. This is wrist pin number 2. Look at that. I've got to get my washers on the other side, but look at that. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. I love it. All right, let's get the other one done. Take the wrist pin out. This will slide up in here. Get our wrist pin started here. Get our hole lined up. There we go. And again, we need our washer over here to get that to totally tighten up. I think we got success here. I love it coming together. So that looks great. The next step, and this we're going to be doing this in a separate video. but we got to get the back bearings on here. So this is the bearing that actually fits up on the crankshaft, and basically it slides up over this block right here. I'm not going to slide it all the way on there because it's tight. There's wedges that go in here to kind of tighten all this up. You can adjust it with this screw up here, but you got a split bearing back here in the back that goes up on the crankshaft. And I haven't checked these yet, but I'm assuming they're going to have to be machine board something. We will know once we kind of get in there a little bit farther along, but I need to get these things cleaned up and loosened up a little bit before we can start on that. We're going to probably assuming that we have to take some metal out of these, which again I'm assuming we will, we're going to probably set this up on the milling machine. This isn't really a very practical item to turn in the lathe, although it could be done in a 4-jaw chuck. We'll probably still do it on the milling machine. A little bit easier setup over there, I think. Anyway, we will tackle that coming up soon, and hopefully be able to get these mounted over in the machine here before too long and finish up our Babbitt pours and basically have our connecting rods and our cross slides finished up here. And we can, still a lot of work to do on this engine, but we are making progress. I love it. Well, there we go. We got our wrist pins finished up, got our connecting rods mounted to the crossheads, making good progress, heading in the right direction once again. Guys, with that, that's going to be a wrap for today. As always, thanks so much for watching. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Those thumbs up, those comments, they help out a lot. Please do that if you don't mind. Big, huge thank you to those who support the site financially through Patreon, PayPal, and YouTube memberships. All those are great ways to kind of go a little bit above and beyond and help out around here. It really, really does make a difference. I appreciate those that do it, and if you're on the fence, consider it. It really does help out a lot. And with that, we're going to get out of here. We'll catch you guys on the next video. Again, as always, thanks for watching.